Tony, thanks for making the time.
Thank you. No
Welcome.
worries.
Welcome. So how is quarantine?
Quarantine's been, it's pretty good, I just stay at home, play games, do my thing.
What games are you playing other than League?
I think right now I've been, I guess it's a little bit up and down. Like I was playing a little bit of Apex for a bit, and then I hopped on World of Warcraft for a little bit, got off fast, hopped back on. Like it was just a little bit, like I play like one game for an hour with somebody, then play another game, played a bunch of ARAMs. It's I think one for all, or not one for all, but one of the game modes for League was out. So I've been doing like a lot of random games with a lot of different people.
Yeah, ARAM is surprisingly fun. It's just stupid and fun, and I love ARAM.
Yeah.
Yeah. So got to cyberstalk you for a little while, and I have a bunch of questions. First off, hard. I think one of my favorite clips about someone saying your name was when you went to Australia, and you had two, Today Show host women, and then just say, "How did you get your name Hard?" And they just giggle hysterically. Is that the reason why you named yourself Hard? Is so that newscasters in Australia would giggle at your name hysterically?
No, but actually, I have a few funny stories with that name. First I'll begin with like the origin of the name. So I joined a team, Cloud9, and I was in their Challenger team, Cloud9 Tempest. That was where I had my debut into like Challenger series, I guess, or like on any pro team. That was the first one. And when I joined them, my username that I made when I was like 10 years old wasn't good. Like I'm not allowed using it. So back then there's a movie, or I think everyone knows, like Shrek, and there was the Puss in Boots, right? So I went on a word generator, and one of the combined words was family and puss. So I was just thinking it was like a cat, right? I didn't really like know I didn't know more of it, right? Even though like it was honestly completely innocent, nothing wrong with it. So I used that name. They didn't let me use it. I didn't want to use it either at that point, because like at this point, like I know it's going to be like too memed or something. And so I was running through some ideas with my friends, and I came up with like Toner. I came up with a bunch of random stuff, but Toner was the one that was kind of like sticking to me, because that's just like my nickname in high school and stuff. So I think my coach suggested Stark, and after that I was like, it was the day of the deadline, and I couldn't think of what to name it, because I didn't want to do Toner really, because I thought it was a bit too personal. So I wanted to get something else, and 5 minutes before, somebody messaged me on the League client, and his in-game name was Easy. So the first thing that came into my head is like, oh, like one syllable, Hard. Like I think that'd be pretty cool. Like all the Koreans, like there's like Acorn, Peanut, like all these like cool names. Like just one word. Like it doesn't even make sense, but like it's a cool word, right? So I just I idolize like that kind of idea, like way of creating a cool in-game name, instead of doing like XX Quickscoper or something, like really like like the North American traditions, like at least that was like the culture back in the day, because it was so long ago. And that's how I picked the name. And I didn't realize how weird it would be introducing myself to people when I picked it. And the first time I realized like Hard was like, hey, I'm Hard, was when I went to not that I went to Brazil, but I went to San Francisco, and a Brazilian team came to boot camp in San Francisco, and we ended up playing against them in person at the Logitech office when I was on C9. And after the game, like we went to handshake and like introduced ourselves, and I was going one by one, like from like support to their top laner, like, hey, I'm Hard, hey, I'm Hard, hey, I'm Hard, and they're all giggling, and I didn't really get it. And after that, like it hit me like, wow, this is, it's a pretty good icebreaker, so like I'll take it at that. Yeah.
Nothing like telling someone that you're hard to really break the ice.
Yeah.
It seems like, you have this naivete, like innocence of just like, I don't know, good intentioned of like, family puss or, Hard or, Mute the World was like pretty low key. That was pretty neutral. But then also it seems like you found a lot of controversy, or controversy has been around you. With C9, there was we had a poaching thing with LA Renegades, but then also there was like this match ringing thing, whatever. But for the most part, it just seemed like I can just imagine you just being like looking around and being like, what did you learn in those like crazy situations? And yeah, like you've experienced a lot of crazy things. What have you learned in those experiences?
I mean, when I was on C9 and we got banned for the one split, I think it's not more. I think at the time I was young and it was like my first split, so I didn't really know what to expect. So not making it into spring split, I didn't understand what I had lost out on up until like I played in summer. But I think the main thing is I've learned after playing on C9 and then Echo Fox is just to like. I think it was hard for me to understand back then that if things were going wrong, to keep going and things will get better. So I had. I think I just didn't understand what it was like to work hard for something at the time. And so I think those were my two biggest learning experiences, to keep going forward no matter like what happens, because like eventually, like if you work hard enough, like you'll achieve what you want to achieve. That's what I truly believe.
So what is it that
that's a big thing.
What is it that you truly want to achieve?
I mean, at this point, my main goal is to get into the LCS, and I think that's most people's goals in Academy anyways. But I think it's not like I just want to go to LCS and just, I'm playing in LCS, guys, because I've already done that, right? I actually want to, I want to play well. I want to make a great team. Like I don't think my goal is to be like individually great, but I want everybody around me to be great, and I want to compete at a very high level, and I want to basically I think like competing here is like not enough for me, even though like I'm in Academy. Maybe my goals are set too high right now, but like I want to play internationally even, like I want to go to Worlds if it's possible. Like I want to do all these things, because I think that's like the peak of League.
Well, so talk to me about that time with Echo Fox, because you were able to play in the LCS. Also another like chaotic time, but yeah, how was your time in Echo Fox and playing in the LCS?
So that was a big learning experience for me too, for a lot of different reasons. For one, when I was playing on the year before, I played on C9 Challenger for pretty much a split, because we got banned in spring. And we so I didn't learn that much in summer, and so in summer I was basically learning myself. That's how Challenger worked, because we didn't really have a huge figure in the team, or like this insane coach that would tell us exactly what to do at every single stage of the game. And so going from there to going to Echo Fox, where now I'm playing with like Froggen, for example. I have coaches on the team, like I have Coach Cop. I feel that I have to like listen, and I have to follow the big guys. You know what I mean? Like, because they've been around, and to me, I felt like I was like looking up to them for like advice in the game, like what I should always be listening to these people, and I didn't. Like, I kind of got away from like critically thinking for myself also. And I think in spring split, like a lot of the stuff I learned in summer of the year before like carried over. But by the time it got to summer, I wasn't putting in enough effort at the same time. And I also moved away from a lot of the like my own practices of what was like my own problem solving in game. Like I moved away from it, and I just purely listened, I think. And I think that kind of took away, because at that point you're not even playing the game, you're just listening to people and playing how they want to play the game, and they don't necessarily know what's best for your role. So yeah, I think the biggest thing I took away from that is I have to be a leader for myself, and then I can, because I'm even playing jungle, like I can't really be listening to my laners all the time. So I have to know what's right, and I have to make decisions for myself, and I have to do them selfishly. Like I don't believe I play selfish. I'm always looking out for the best interests of the team and how we can win the game. And I think that was like my biggest takeaway from that year.
So how do you find that balance now with GG, that speaking up enough in confidence of knowing your role, knowing your position, but then also still being listening to other people's feedback on what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. So I think During a game, I would be. I don't want to say I'm stubborn, but if so, at this point, I have an idea of how I want to play the game, and when we get in game, I want to focus on doing the things that I think are correct, and if something happens that is that may have set back my ideas, then I need to learn from that. So if I wasn't able to, like, if I'm thinking I can get a 5-minute dragon off doing this certain path and having my lanes push in a certain way, and by the time I get to dragon, if I can't do it because of something in the game that happened, then for the next time I will know that I have to do this differently. This isn't 100% thing. I have to set up these certain like conditions to create this like dragon opportunity for us. And so, like, after like if something didn't go so well in a scrim, I will like look back and learn from it. But in game, I don't want to, like, if somebody's like, yo, top, like if Darshan's telling me like, yo, you gotta come top, we have to kill this guy right now, like I'm gonna be so fed. And if I know if I go top, I'm gonna waste a minute, I'm gonna be at dragon at like 6 minutes 30 instead of 5, and that the dragon will probably be gone, I'm just gonna base. Like I'm not even gonna go top. Like if that's like what I perceive the win condition. And obviously I'm not keeping this stuff like internalized. When we're loading in, like I'm going to tell all the boys that, hey, this is what I think we should be playing for, and we can quickly discuss. I feel like I'm really open to helping my teammates out, but I need to find windows where we're not giving up objectives and where we're still like playing for something and not just kills at that point.
So you've actually worked with Keith back in Echo Fox and now with him with Golden Guardians. What's it like working with Keith in Echo Fox and now in Golden Guardians?
I think Keith to me, it was really surprising how much he's like changed play style wise. He's the same person. He's still a goofball, but back when we were on Echo Fox together, I think we shared the same sentiment where we weren't really thinking for ourselves, and we just thought what we were doing was right because we didn't know better. So I think when he joined us last year in summer and we had like that playoff run, we only practiced with him for like 3 weeks. Even then, I could see how much he's learned about the game, and it was honestly like really, really shocking because I kind of had like the Echo Fox year for me wasn't so great, so I kind of had like I was a little bit hesitant, like, oh, I'm playing with Keith again, like this might be a bad time, but he like I love him as a person. He's such a great guy, and in game I don't want to say he's toxic, but he's very forward. So if something's wrong, he like after the game ends, like he will call it out right away, and it's not that he's being aggressive. Like all his intentions are great, and yeah, I think also because I've known him for so long now that I think that I understand his personality, and he helps me so much to be better. And I truly believe that he wants everybody on the team to improve just as much as he wants to improve himself. I think he's a really great guy, good teammate.
So it seems like there's a good amount of trust that is needed with your teammates, and especially in game, especially if they're asking you to do something which that may even put yourself in danger, but for the betterment of the team. So how have you built trust with other players, and does it take longer for some people than others?
So for I guess you could say it does take longer to build trust with certain players than other players, because certain players want to take more risks, and some players just want to like crunch the numbers and play as safe as possible. And to those players, you can always count on them to give you consistent results. But to people who are like risk takers, you just have to communicate well, because you never know. Like sometimes they think of something really great in the moment, but because they think of it so quickly, they don't think about all the things that could go wrong. So you have to be able to say no when you believe that it's wrong, and to follow up when you like aren't sure. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to stop somebody from making a play if you don't have like if you don't know what's going to happen, you have to see it through, or otherwise you're not going to learn anything, right? So even if people are making the wrong decisions, like in practice, it's okay. Like I feel like everyone will always trust each other, but when you get in game, you have to like you have to hold everybody together and make sure everybody's always on the same page. So you can't be rushing to quick decisions. So I guess It's a bit of a tough question because I feel like if you're in a team, you have to trust each other. And I don't think I've been on it, like now that I'm thinking of it, I don't think I've been on a team where I haven't trusted my teammates. So I feel like it's probably really easy to give all your teammates the trust that they need to make calls, like, or have a voice on the team even, right? So yeah, I guess.
But it sounds like when you talk about people who are risk takers and kind of will go for opportunities. I mean, they're opportunity takers, you could say, but you could also say reckless. So I guess my question is, does everyone on the team need to have a little bit of risk-taking ability in which that they have confidence in themselves to like see an opportunity and go for it? But, you know, for the most part, have a foundation of, you know, by the numbers? Or is it more of like you want one or two risk takers and then the rest are kind of like by the numbers and then you support the risk taker when they see that opportunity and they go for the, you know, the gank or whatever it is?
I think honestly, you can have as many risk takers as you can on the team. Like you can have 5 people who just see plays all the time, but the only way it'll work out is I feel like if everybody is communicating with each other before they take risks, because you can't have somebody taking a risk bot lane and then taking a risk top lane at the same time, because one of those risks is going to be good. But like, what if the jungler's on one of the sides, right? And if they're both taking a risk without the information, then you're risking a lot in the game. You know, like some risks aren't worth taking until you have the information to take a risk. Like if you're giving yourself like a 70-30 to win a 2v2 in the bot lane, but you don't know where the jungler is, well, there's still already a 30% chance you're going to lose the fight, right? Like, do you take that risk if you don't have that information? Like, that wouldn't be so smart, I think. So I think as long as you have as long as collectively everybody's agreeing to take certain risks on a team, and we're not constantly taking risk all the time, then I think you can have as many players who are like reckless in a game. I actually think the players who are reckless and who find these opportunities, I feel like they're usually I think at least in this meta, I think they're just going to be the better players usually, because I feel like you have to take risks to win games. And if you're playing super slow all the time, I think you'll probably just eventually lose. So it is important too.
So you talked about with Echo Fox that for the most part, it sounded like you played more by the numbers and, you know, did what you were kind of told. But then it sounded like you gained more confidence in knowing kind of your role. So does that mean, or do you feel that you're more by the numbers, more of a risk taker, or a blend of both? And if so, what percentage is that?
I think typically I'm not more of a risk taker. I like to play. I don't want to say I like to play the game slow. I like to fight a lot in a game, but I really look after like my teammates' timings when they can help me, and I will always, if I know I can, because I think for most of the game, we can map out where the enemy jungler is going to be, what camps he's farming, and what side he is playing for, like if we can get dragon here. So for most of the time, if I see that my bot lane has push, I'm aware of that, and I can try to, like if I can, I will try to make a play with that. Like, oh, maybe we can just invade, or maybe we can take dragon here. Maybe we can roam up to mid and clear vision. Like I feel like I've gotten really good at figuring out what to do with laner prio. And so with that in mind, I don't want to say like I'm a safe player, but like it's not that I'm passive, but I'm not taking that, like I'm not going in 1v1 blind with no vision and hoping for the best income or outcome. Like I'm playing with some form of like confidence that I'm not just going to throw the game here, you know? So I don't take crazy risks, but I do try to find plays all the time.
So the biggest play pops up and you want to take the dive. Do you take the dive, or do you come to your guys and be like, hey, I've got this opportunity? Or do you just say, I'm going for it, back me up?
Yeah, I think definitely if you're playing like engaged champions and you see somebody without flash. I mean, so before I go into that, I think most of the time if you're coming out of base and you know you can make a play on somebody, you're just going to be like preparing the team that, hey, if this guy steps up anywhere close, like I'm just going in. Like there's no questions asked. Like if you don't follow up, like it was a good play in my eyes at the time, but if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. We can look at it, but sometimes, or not sometimes, it does happen like all the time with every single player. If you see somebody out of position and you go in and you think it's good, and you don't like fully prepare yourself. It's just the enemy's making a mistake. You have to capitalize on that. I think that's a really important skill to have, and I think everybody should be doing that. And I think that's really good. And like I would for sure take it if somebody's like giving me, or like if they're giving me any space to engage, like I'll take it. You know.
How often do people mistake you for Draco Malfoy?
Draco Malfoy.
Malfoy? Draco? Oh, oopsies.
Yeah, from Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
Not so much. I've gotten Harry Potter more, honestly, and there's this kids show. It's called Lazy Town. There's a character called Stingy, I think. People always compare me to him. I can see that one kind of when I didn't have a beard. I think that one's my favorite, but definitely get Harry Potter more than Draco Malfoy.
Okay. And then also, is Benji your twin brother?
No, he is not my twin brother, but funny enough is he actually lives like 5 minutes away from me, like back in Canada.
Wow.
So not only do we look similar, I don't think we look completely alike. I can see why people pass us up as brothers. Actually, in a lot of league events, it's funny. People have come up to me and asked me like, "Hey Benji, can I get a picture?" Or like, or at the time it was like LOD, right?
Yeah.
LOD, and that was especially when we had the tournament in Vancouver. They had like I think it was like spring finals in Vancouver, Canada, and I was walking around the event, and I was walking with like league players, I guess. So that gives them the confidence to think, like, to the people that see me, that gives them more confidence to actually believe that I am LOD, because LOD is more associated with like I don't know, like hanging out with like Cop or other people in the scene. And I think my name was like, LOD's just a more popular figure because he's been around longer, you know? Like I feel like more people know him, and that's why they may not know what I look like. So when they see me hanging around with like league players, then they probably think it's LOD because that's the first person that comes to their mind.
Is there a Canadian like Mafia for esports? Because there seems to be a lot of Canadians.
Not really, no. Not a Mafia. I think the league community in Canada is quite big. Also, yeah, I feel like I don't know how it was in American high schools and stuff, but literally everybody in my school played League. And that's been like for almost all the schools I went to in Canada. So I feel like I think League of Legends was one of the more popular games in Canada. Like we had Call of Duty, obviously, and so does America probably. And there's like GTA. But then when League came out, and it was maybe like season 2 or 3, I also think the population of British Columbia, I think it's majority Asians. And I think when season 2 was it like Hong Kong or Taipei Assassins that won a TPA, and then season 3 it was just like SKT, and I think people can get like really hyped about like their country winning, you know. And we did have like, my school was primarily like Korean kids, so I think they were all super excited about it, and I think that's what gets people into like gaming even more, or like into those kind of games.
So would you identify as Canadian, Russian, French, American, League of Legends?
I'm actually, well, I think for the most part. So if I travel to, or if I'm in Canada, I tell people I'm Russian usually, because that's just like my background. I feel like everyone in Canada is from a different country. Like everyone, somewhere in their family history, they were immigrants. So I just say I'm Russian. When I'm in America, I say I'm Canadian, because I'm like, I am Canadian, like that's my citizenship. And then when I go to Finland, or like just to visit family there, I was always telling people that I'm Canadian, because I think people like Canadians, you know. So when you're traveling, you should say you're Canadian. But if you're getting to know people, like friends and stuff, like if I'm not gonna see you just one time, I'm gonna tell you I'm Russian, you know.
I think when I was traveling in Europe, everyone said just like say that you're Canadian, because if you say you're American, they're gonna hate you. So everyone likes Canadians. Americans, pretty polarizing. Mm-hmm. So with Russian, what do you think about Moscow 5?
Like back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think, so I played League before that team came out into like, so I played League, but I didn't follow competitive at all. And I don't want to say I'm like super patriotic or anything, but when I see like Russians doing well, like I feel like I feel good. I feel good about myself, you know? So when I saw Moscow 5 in Season 2 Worlds, I think that gave me a lot of motivation to grind out the game at the time. And that was very inspiring to me to see like Alex Ich, Diamond Products. Like I really looked up to these guys. And yeah, that really like pumped me up to like play the game. So I really liked their team at the time. But now actually, I don't even think Moscow 5's, it's like they changed into Gambit and it's not even the same players anymore. So can't really relate anymore. But back in the day, yeah, they were the shit. They were so nice to watch.
So the scene there isn't as nearly as competitive
in
now.
Russia
now.
Well, back so yeah, for sure it's less competitive. Back then though,
They were the
it was
Korean
in the
goalies, right? Is that what they called them?
yeah they were beating everybody.
Yeah,
like it wasn't just like the Asian teams that they're beating. I feel like it was most teams, but I think it's because North Americans our teams in NALCS, they looked up to like Korean meta, and then you see Moscow 5 building 5 GAs, and they're just playing they're just playing random stuff all the time, you know, like they have weird strategies and they play around strategies. And Diamond Prox at the time, he was playing like so different in comparison to any jungler. So when you aren't sure if you're not sure what your enemy is going to be doing, it creates a lot of chaos in the game for your team, because I could be saying like, yo, the jungler's top side, but really he's invading me bottom. Like instead of farming his camps, he's being like really aggressive, overly aggressive even maybe. And then it's like, I'm not expecting that, so I'm not prepared to deal with it. Like I'm not telling my teammates, I need you guys to come here to stop this, because it may not be a good play for him to do that, but he's doing it anyways. And I wasn't ready for that, and so now I'm punished, you know? And I think he was really good at punishing the enemy jungler. He was really good at making plays. They had solid side lanes, and Alex Ich was really good at the time too. So, but I feel like I think back then they were in the European LCS, so they were really competitive. But I think when they had like the visa issues and they played in Russia, there's not as many players in Russia, and I think they just played Dota in Russia anyways. So yeah, it's not as competitive as it used to be.
I mean, I saw that you were a Dota player back when it was DOTA AllStars, which was just the amalgamation of all the different, Dota mods off of Warcraft 3. And so do you still play Dota at all?
I don't play Dota at all anymore. I guess I haven't really, like, when it became Dota 2 or whenever League of Legends came out, I probably on Steam I probably have like 10 hours on Dota 2. Like
Yeah.
I haven't touched the game at all. Yeah, when you get used to like your character like instantly moving side to side and not having to turn around, I feel like it's really hard to get back into Dota. So I can't do it to myself. It's too much work.
I mean, there are serious purists though, like especially people who came from DOTA AllStars. Like they're like, Dota is the only way. But
yeah.
so are there any other games that? So you said you were playing a little bit. Like, are there any other games that you would want to potentially go like pro in?
Probably not. I feel like I've always been pretty decent at shooter games, but I haven't been good enough to go pro in those. So to me, I have the most fun still playing League. And with that in mind, like I'd probably just want to be a League pro.
So also with streaming, I saw that you did a 24-hour stream a while ago. But why do a 24-hour stream, and what's the experience like doing a 24-hour stream?
Okay, so I think the last time I did a 24-hour stream was actually, I did it both New Year's. I think every New Year's I've done a 24-hour stream, and to me it's kind of a tradition to stay up all New Year's. I think when I was growing up, my parents would always go to like family parties and stuff, and our tradition was just to stay awake. And so they would stay awake and like eat food and celebrate. And what I would do is play video games for the entire night until I got like way too tired and I would just go sleep. So just following that tradition, I wanted to stay awake for 24 hours. And yeah, I think it's just like a me thing, you know, I got to do it. But the experience of doing a 24-hour stream, I think usually by 18 hours, the life inside of me like dies, and it's just like you're just holding on for 6 more hours, like you're just I just remember like I was getting in a game, finish the game, and I would look at the time, it's like only 20 minutes has passed, like please. And if the queue goes too long, you just feel like falling asleep. So there's so many problems. Like you have to start at the right time, because if you're ending your 24-hour stream at like 6 a.m., the midnight to 6 a.m. is going to be so difficult because nobody's playing, so you have to start at maybe even start at midnight. Yeah, midnight would be the perfect time to start a 24-hour stream, I feel like.
So before you go into nothing, when you're not tired and from a 24-hour stream, you've described yourself as a fun guy on your Twitter header. Can you describe why you're a fun guy?
I'm just a Kawhi Leonard fan, So I remember he said, yeah, I'm just a fun guy. I mean, I can tell you guys more, but I can't give you the whole spiel right now. Like he had that interview, and that's where the laugh came up from. Yeah, I'm just a big Kawhi Leonard fan. I love what he did for for my home city, or not home city, but home country, Canada. I'm not from Toronto, but it's really cool to see. Like even the praise, that was so cool. I didn't think Toronto Raptors were ever gonna win, so it's awesome. It's like wow. It's crazy.
So speaking of American pride, you had a Thanksgiving in America. What do you think about American Thanksgivings?
Oh, that was actually, I think that was the first time I've ever celebrated Thanksgiving, actually, because I don't think I celebrated it in Canada. Maybe we had like dinner with my family and that was it, but I didn't even think it was Thanksgiving, So no, it was really nice because yeah, just like seeing a lot of people, like you just, it's like a chill reunion, and then we played some fun games, and yeah, it was honestly a lot better than what I thought it would be, so I was happy.
What kind of tweets do you get tagged in with @hard?
Really bad ones. I mean, I'm not gonna get like too in detail of it, but there's too many like tweets that come at me with like people. Okay, so one of the most famous tweets is like at Hard Rock Cafe, but they put at Hard space Rock space Cafe. So I always get the at Hard part, right? And I always get tagged in like just random strangers, like, oh, just had a great dinner, had a great show at Hard Rock Cafe, right? I get those all the time. Those aren't bad. I think they're funny. Sometimes I even like favorite them, Like I'm actually beginning to think that maybe I should start responding to these people because I think it's really funny. Like just like somebody randomly tags me, I'll like just say something, right? I get a lot of tags in EDM, like at Hard, like the festivals, I guess hardstyle is like a type of music, a genre, so I get tagged in that stuff. A lot of Japanese stuff too, actually. I don't really understand that one though, because well, it's in Japanese, so I can't really read it, and Google Translate doesn't really do justice to that. So and then after that, the ones I really dislike, and honestly, like I'm borderline on the fence of trying to switch my IGN because of these, is I get way too many like pictures of like it's not even in my DMs, because like I don't have to open those, I don't have to look at those, but it's literally like, oh, I got a notification, somebody tagged me in something. I open up, like go on Twitter, and I just see a huge picture, like my entire screen is filled with it, and I'm like, dude, I gotta like swipe. I remember one time I opened it up in a restaurant, and the waiter was like I don't know if she saw it, but it was awkward, like there's a lot of weird situations. Yeah, I don't appreciate those.
If ever an incentive to change your name, I think that's one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of other cultures, anime. Do you have any favorite animes?
Favorite animes. So Hunter, that one for sure is up there for me. I really like One Piece. Been watching that. Naruto used to be good. I kind of lost it when Boruto came out. I think it's kind of ruining my perception of the series because Boruto is just so bad. And Black Clover would be the last one, I guess. Those are like my top 4 right now.
Okay. LA or Vancouver? Which one's better and why?
That one's hard. So I want to say that maybe. Okay, so if Vancouver didn't rain all the time, I would say Vancouver, but because of the weather, plus in the wintertime we get a little bit of snow. It's not bad, but because it rains so much, it's just slush everywhere on the ground. That's really not fun. Like just walking and you just hear your shoes get wet, so you have to wear boots first off, and then yeah, like -2 degrees, -5 degrees Celsius is I don't know Fahrenheit, sorry, but -2 to 5
It's
Celsius.
like 28, something like that. I don't know.
28.
It's cold.
Okay.
It's cold. It's below freezing.
Yeah, it's below freezing for sure. Yeah, but to me, that's not cold. Like that's like I can still go outside in a hoodie, and I really like that temperature. So I really like hot temperature and cold temperature. So in like my apartment here with my roommate, like I personally don't like having the AC on at all. I like it being like 76 to like 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. And to me, that's like my ideal temperature. So there's pros and cons, but I have to pick LA at the end of the day because just there's no rain. Like you don't have to deal with the winter, which is just slush. The cold's not bad. I like the cold, but yeah, I think the rain is the buzzkill for me there.
When it comes to going to Korea, is Korea your favorite place, and how's boot camping in Korea?
So boot camping in Korea is fun. I really like that. Yeah, solo queue is just better, and you get instant queues. So the moment you queue up, you just get in a game. I know a lot of people have been saying that Korean solo queue is not that great. Like, yeah, there are a lot of trolls, but when you get into the higher end games, you really start to learn, and you really get to like just see yourself like improving over time when you play against, I don't know, like Spirit or Tarzan and like certain other players in the region that are good, which is a lot of the players, because like China literally plays on it. Like everybody plays on that server because it's just like it's the spot, you know. It's where the cool kids hang out. And the 8 ping is probably the biggest part. Playing on 60 to like 70 ping from Vancouver or LA is not that great. You can definitely tell the difference when you go from like practice and scrims on the tournament realm versus live. At this point, we've gotten used to it, so I can't complain. But for sure, when I go to Korea and I play solo queue there, have you seen like the original Naruto before? Like that scene with Rock Lee versus Gaara, where he takes off the weights. Okay, well, that's what it feels like. You're taking off like, actually, I mean, I could just say like you're just taking off a bunch of weight off you, you know? Like you're walking around with like 50 pounds on your back, and when you land in Korea, log into like the league client, like it's already gone, you know? Like that's how good it feels to play on that connection. And traveling there though, it's kind of indifferent. I get bored of the food really fast.
Really? You don't like Korean barbecue?
I mean, it's good, but when you eat it every single day, and I don't like soup, and I feel like those are the two big dishes in Korea, soup and barbecue. So the last time I went, I actually went to get sushi every single day. That's something I can handle, because one day I can get like fish, another day I can get like eggs, like tamago, and the third day or whatever I could get like just beef. So you can get a lot of variety in sushi. Like rice is always good. I like rice.
So jumping back in time with high school and playing, you started really early. You were still going to classes while competing. How'd you balance that life?
So I didn't really balance it well, personally.
You graduated.
I dropped out in Echo Fox and I had to go back. So I didn't compete my. Well, I did compete my senior year, but I dropped out to go play LCS because you can't play LCS from home.
Yeah.
And then the year after, I went back and finished it, and that was pretty cool. Everyone's like pretty proud of me because they didn't think I would ever finish high school at that point. You know, it's like one of my like our family friends told me that in like Russian like culture or something, if you drop out, you're probably never finishing it. So they're like it was a really big deal for everyone, I guess, and they're happy. But I will say that while I was on C9 and that was grade 11 for me, I would sleep in my first block. Like I didn't get enough sleep almost ever. I would play all night. Like I would play till 3 a.m. and then I would wake up at 7, so I'd sleep like 4 hours, and I would get to my first class, which is French, and it was like a secondary French. So my second language was, or my languages in order were like Russian first, and then I was learning French, and I kind of learned English in between, but I would say I was learning French quicker than English at first. So when I was in that grade 9, or I was grade 9, or sorry, I was grade 11 in a grade 12 French class, and actually I might have even been a peer tutor at that time, so it might have been even more worth to sleep because you don't really get graded for that. But I'm a little bit off track because I'm forgetting what exactly I was doing in that French class. I just remember it was French. I didn't really need to like study up because I kind of knew everything. So it was nice that I had French class and then I had PE. So I like gym right after. So I would be able to like get through. It was only the first class I was tanking, but I didn't really get graded on that, so I wasn't really tanking anything. So I got lucky, I guess, in my schedule. But if I had to say, I wasn't balancing it well because of that, right? So, but yeah, another thing is like my parents they wouldn't let me play if I got like terrible grades.
Yeah.
So as long as I was like keeping a decent balance on that, like that's all I had to keep in mind. But I think the education system in Canada and America is probably pretty easy and similar. So like I went to Finland to study for a year, and I think I learned everything in that year. Like we were literally doing calculus in grade 7 Finland.
Wow.
Like pre-calculus and like just getting into calculus. And I didn't see that. Like I came back to Canada for grade 9 for high school, and we were doing percentages still and like basic algebra. And I was just like, wow, like this is so easy, you know? Like we literally did that in like 2 weeks in Finland. So I got really lucky, and just like I think my experience living in Finland really helped me out with school for sure.
So going a little bit further back, how did you get into League of Legends? Was it through DOTA AllStars?
So my brother would always download games that came out, and I think he got into the beta of League just off a Facebook page, and he installed that. He showed me the game. At this time, I didn't play Dota yet. I was like kind of playing Dota, but I was mostly playing Warcraft 3, like just the RTS version of it, like the standalone. Like I was just 1v1ing people, and I thought that was like my favorite game at the time. So he downloaded the game, and I remember playing Annie like the very first game, and I didn't know how to level up skills. So when I saw people like casting Tibbers, because there's like only 40 characters, so obviously there's Annie on my team and Annie on the enemy team, because it's the cheapest character in the game, right? So I remember people casting Tibbers, and I was like, dude, this is pay to win. Like, how are they doing this and I can't do this? So I was really convinced. I was really bad when I first started, but after that I went back to Dota, like ignoring the beta because I didn't like League for some reason, because I just didn't understand it. But when I played Dota and I realized you can like level skills and stuff, and like that's when I got good at MOBAs. I went back to League, and it was just so easy from there, I think.
So you worked with a bunch of different coaches. How would you describe the styles of coaching that you've worked with?
That one's tricky. So I've worked with coaches that are kind of laid back, and they just VOD review over the entire game. Then I don't think there's really a coaching style, you know? I feel like everyone kind of coaches similarly. There's like very key differences. I think, for example, Nick, I think he really focused on coaching a specific topic for the week or like a few days, and he would really like help us learn the one concept really well before we moved on to the next concept. So that's like a difference versus some coaches where they just try to look at the whole game objectively and just go through the whole game and hope you learn throughout the whole game. And I feel like these two concepts of like teaching can work, but like it's just everyone learns differently, right? It's just I honestly feel like being a coach in League is like being a teacher in school. Like you just have to manage a bunch of well, at this point it's not really kids anymore, right? Because everyone's grown up. But back in the day, it was definitely like that. Just, you know, like just imagine you being a teacher and teaching a class. I feel like that's exactly what it's like. And some kids take criticism differently than others, you know, so you just have to find out a way to teach everybody equally so the team can be as strong as it can be, right? Because I feel like there's a saying that a team can only be so good as the weakest player or something like that. Like I've heard that before. So you just got to make sure everybody's on the same page.
So you think the best way to do that is to kind of, should you individualize the coaching, or should it be the same across the board?
I feel like, so I believe, like for me, I think that what would help a team the most is if you have a coach to teach you guys the game, or not so much like everybody playing the game, everybody who's a pro player, like they probably know the game really well already. You need a coach that knows the game well and can help you guys get on the same page. I think a coach should facilitate discussion in the team, and if the coach realizes, because the coach should know the game, if he sees you guys struggling and like setting up vision, and he realizes this is happening consistently, he can notice that because he's looking from the outside perspective. But when we're playing in game, maybe it feels like we have good vision, you know, but we're not using our vision to what we can, and that's his job to like get us to do that stuff. But for us to improve individually, I feel like more individual help is necessary. Like I think you can have like, I think 2 coaches is like almost perfect. One guy is gonna help certain players like get on the right page, so everybody's doing their solo stuff, like doing this, like for example split pushing. As long as you're like, he teaches one guy how to split push without dying or whatever, or where to ward, like that stuff you don't need to review as a team. So that could be like the individual coach, right? And then the coach would be like telling you guys like, yeah, we're gonna set up wards here, and this is how we control vision. And then when they walk in, like we fight them, like something like that, you know.
So speaking of leadership, what was it like to have Rick Fox as a leader?
Oh, that was really cool. I think a lot of the times he spoke a lot, but he spoke with like words of wisdom, I think. So, I mean, yeah, he said a lot. I think there's some good and bad things. I think what didn't work out so well is when he tried to coach us in league. So we were struggling in summer, and then he came in and he was trying to like figuring out what we can do better. But like, so he came in the room and he was trying to coach us and give us like advice and stuff. And he was like problem solving for us, which was like helpful. But because he didn't know the game so well, he would be talking about like, okay, so why do we take this fight and why do we lose? And then somebody would say, oh, well, we thought they were picked out. And then he would say, why were they picked out? It's because they didn't have vision, or we didn't have vision of the enemy, other enemies that were there, right? And then he would say, oh, why didn't we have vision? And then somebody would say, we didn't place ward. And then he would go back like, oh, but why wasn't the ward placed, right? So he's like really going like really in deep in it, and there's just so many variables. So at that point, it wasn't so helpful, I think. But when he was, I think like I feel like he's just such an inspiring guy, and his advice on his talks on like leadership and just like working together as a team and like how to win, etc., and like just like the mentality, I feel like he really helped everyone on that. But I mean, you do have to be like really good at the game to coach players who are also good at the game, you know. So it's just he didn't play league that much at the time. I'm sure now he has a way better understanding than he did as soon as he got into league, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it's interesting as someone who is a 3-time championship of world-renowned league, not really being able to be effective in coaching something like League of Legends, and it really goes to show of like how complicated it is, because it's a blend of psychology, relationship, interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, but then having to really understand the game on a granular level. And so it's really hard to kind of find those people to be able to effectively coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I think there's like 2 aspects of a coach, right? Like you said, like psychology is one of them, like the mental aspects. And I think that's something Rick Fox did a really good job with us. But when it came down to strategy, I think that's where you actually have to now like study the game and really understand it to get that part of it down. Because I don't think not everybody can be a basketball coach, right? Like you can study psychology and you're like, I don't want to say you're halfway there to being a good coach, but like when you learn a lot of information on how to get people like working together, how to like motivate, how to like push people to like their peaks. I think that's like the mental aspect of the sport of being a coach. And then the second part is understanding the game and being able to create plans for the team, and stuff like that. But I do think a basketball coach is a bit different because you can pause the game and then like time out rather, and you can just like tell the teammates like this, where we're gonna run this strategy. We're gonna try to shoot a lot of threes now. They're playing too close in the key, right? Something like that.
That's kind of frustrating for League, where you can't just run specific like plays or moments. You got to play the whole game in order to actually drill that one part.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I know that in practice, some teams like they pause in a game and then, for example, I think we didn't pause too much, but there's some games where like we're really into like people are just getting like we're trying to set up the map, but somebody keeps like messing up, so we pause, we talk about it real quick, and then we try to do it again, and then we just completely mess up again, and it's just like nobody wants to pause anymore. It's like everyone's just frustrated in those times, but it's like that's what could work in a basketball game, right? Like something like if somebody's messing up on a certain area, you could just time out and then tell them like, no, you need to be standing here and doing this, for example. But we can't do that in League, which sucks. But I guess that what makes it like, well, it does, I don't want to say it makes it more competitive, but it makes it more fun to watch because there's more mistakes.
For you, what's the key difference between Academy and LCS?
I actually don't think there's that big of a difference between LCS and Academy. Between like the middle to low parts of LCS, I feel like you could put in any Academy team and they would do just as fine. Well, I guess actually I'll take that statement, because I know people do really well against their LCS teams in scrims. Like you can hear about it, like, yeah, we smurfed on our LCS team like 2-2. And it's like, it's funny that they say they smurf on them, they go like even, or maybe sometimes they go like 3-1 or whatever in scrim results. And I think with that in mind, I think player skill has become to a point where everybody can lane against each other for the most part, like excluding some, like it's not all 10 laners in Academy are competent enough to play against all 10 laners in LCS on the same position. But for example, there could be players like Darshan. It's like you could move him up into LCS. He'll do just as like he will win lane, go even against everybody. Like at his peak versus another guy's peak, they're always playing like at almost equal levels, right? Depending on like who the player is. Like he's capable to beat anyone, right? And with that in mind, there's also other players in Academy who are also capable. Like there's a lot of LCS players in Academy too, like ex-LCS players in Academy too, right? And I think people have gotten to the point in Academy where they're already like understanding lane phase to the point where it doesn't matter. Like back in the day, we would lose games off lane phase. Like people would get solo killed and it's over. People would die to like set like people would freeze a wave and they would panic and they'd try to break it and then they would just die and then they snowball because people didn't know how to play safe back then, right? But I think the skill has increased so much more, especially because LCS players there's like one LCS player in every single Academy team, and those guys are able to coach up the guys who are like soft inting games without even knowing it. And so when that happens, I feel like the Academy has like really elevated in skill since. And I think that although I want to say they can compete against the LCS teams, I don't know if like the stage experience, like I don't know how much of a factor that is. Because I know some LCS teams, like they look really bad in scrims and stuff when we watch, but when they play on stage, they're all of a sudden like winning games. So that's always a shock, right? Like, is that really? I mean, it has to be like stage performance and like nerfs. Like it has to be a part of it. And I guess you can't really tell with rookies, especially like we're playing one game a week now, which is great. Well, we were until quarantine hit, but yeah, it's. I feel like it's really tough to say how good Academy is because you don't get to see them play against LCS teams, other than internally, right? And then you understand like, oh, we can, like when I would join like Academy for the first time and we were beating LCS, I was like, wow, this is not what I expected, you know. And I think I had the same feeling when I was on Echo Fox and we just started scrimming teams. Like I remember seeing well, I just remember I had Keith and Big in the bot lane, and I was also from Challenger. Like we had like Keith didn't even play Challenger. He didn't do anything back then, you know. Like he subbed in for like maybe like 10 LCS games maximum, and our top laner just played solo queue in Korea. Like it was just KFO. Like he was just chilling up there, you know. And when I see these guys like laning and solo killing like other LCS players, and then we're doing fine mid game with like the leadership from like Froggen and Big. Like it's just like, wow, this is surprising. You know, I didn't expect this, but we're doing well. And then I think that's kind of the same feeling I have with Academy now is people are really stepping up and beating like their other halves, I guess.
That's pretty cool. It's interesting to hear to say that, at their best, at their peak. And so I think for the most part, it seems like the difference then is the floor of being able to consistently perform at the peak. Is that kind of the difference?
Yeah, I think that is probably the biggest difference because I'm trying to think of an example of somebody who moved up to LCS and did well. Or I guess I can't think of, there's players, I just can't think of them all the time. But every academy player can have a good game against an LCS player, like I guarantee it. It just depends how many times that player can have a good game versus an LCS player versus having like a mediocre game to a bad game, right? And I think probably if the average academy player played against an LCS, my view might be completely wrong, by the way, but like this is just what I have a feeling in. If I feel like if an academy player played against an LCS player on average 10 games, I think the LCS player would have 3 good games, maybe 5 games even, and then 2 games probably like they're not doing so great, or like maybe 6 games even in 1 game that they got like smurfed on by an academy player, So I feel like the gap is like that's really not that bad, especially if you consider that academy players I think people don't get as pressured here, so they're learning at a very safe pace, Where in LCS, if you get moved up too early, like I can totally see like your mental getting destroyed immediately, and then there's just no recovery,
Yeah.
If you get crushed too early on in your career, like it just feels really bad probably. So you just got to be careful, and I think that's the perk of academy, and I think maybe in a couple more years, if we keep importing players into the LCS and LCS players keep coming down to academy, I think we can definitely see academy beating LCS soon enough.
So to wrap all this up, we're going to do a quick rapid fire thing from James Lipton's Inside the Actor Studio. Are you ready?
Sure.
Cool. What's your favorite word?
First word that came to mind was pizza.
Least favorite word?
Cat.
What turns you on?
Coffee.
What turns you off?
Darkness, I guess.
What sound or noise do you love?
Bubble pop.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Chalkboard.
Favorite
scratching.
Yeah. Favorite curse word?
It's a Polish one. Kurwa.
What does it mean?
It just means like, oh shit, or like fuck, I guess.
Okay. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
I think being a painter would be cool.
Do you paint at all?
Or sorry, not so much painting, but like just being I really like drawing. Painting was something I wasn't good at. I would consider myself really good at drawing, but I think I would have to practice. So I'm not there yet, but I think that would be cool.
You should do a paint off with Nick on Twitter. What profession would you not like to do?
Not like to do? Policeman.
If heaven exists, what would you like God to say when you reach the pearly gates?
What would I like God to say?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah.
Thanks for making the time, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it. It was fun.